to Developing Palates. I'm Aaron Loomis, and with me, as always, is Jiunn Liu. How you doing, Jiunn?
Good, man. Happy Friday.
Same to you.
No?
So today we are talking about the Illusione H-Town Lancero, and this is 7.5 inches by 40 ring gauge, and this is out of the Tapsa factory from Nicaragua. The wrapper is Nicaraguan Corojo 98, and the binder is Nicaraguan Criollo 99, and the filter is just listed as Nicaraguan. Blended by Dion Giolito. Price point is $9.95, and this was released in January of 2016. And it was kind of initially a store exclusive for Stogie's World Class Cigars in Houston. But I think Dion is also selling it in his shop, Fumare in Reno. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is. When I was at Famar this past winter, I want to say like November-ish time frame, he had good stock of it. So
right. Okay. So if Stogie's doesn't have it, you can maybe check the Dion shop, and you might be able to get some.
Oh, they sold out?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just saying it just in case.
Oh.
Just in case you can't get it at Stogie's, then there's a secondary location that you can check on it if you need to. Okay. So we'll just kind of hop right into our pre-light experiences. So what was your pre-light experience like, Jiunn?
Pre-light experience, in general, I was excited to smoke this one because my understanding through just kind of reading different publications like Half Wheel and then talking a little bit to Dion, this was blend off of the 2010 Singular Phantom, which by a very long shot is my favorite Illusione that I've ever smoked in my life. And really, it probably hits, I would say, top 5 cigars of all time for me. So, incredibly high remarks, and I just loved it. It was just delicious. So I was excited to smoke it. So in terms of the actual pre-light experience, the actual band is it says like I think it says like, what is it? I think all his bands that he's made for other shops have the lettering Cigars Privé on it. And then it's just like a very unassuming kind of like a navy blue kind of a band. It says Illusione on it. So pretty regular looking band. I really enjoy Nicaraguan Corojo 98. I think that's probably my favorite leaf that I've had so far. So getting into the wrapper look, the wrapper looks medium brown, like a Colorado Claro kind of a shade. There's like a little slight fuzziness felt on the fingertips on the wrapper. The cigar itself, and being a Lancero and hearing that is so hard to roll, and certainly I tried to put on a wrapper on a freaking Robusto once, and I absolutely did shit. So, given a Lancero, I felt like it was really well bunched and rolled throughout the entire Lancero. It had a pretty good even and uniform give to it. So, especially on the head, which is all a good sign that it's going to draw proper. Veins neatly pressed, seems almost invisible. Heads finish off with the really great, neatly applied. I counted a quadruple cap on mine, so which is pretty non-standard. I usually see triple cap on cigars. So getting into the pre-light aroma, the wrapper smelled. So when I say barnyard in a cigar, sometimes I just kind of typically mean hay, a little bit of manure, kind of manures that's been sitting out there for a few hours and it's kind of dried up, right? So like the horse shat and dumped for 2 hours and it's just sitting there. So it's not as pungent, all right? But smelling this wrapper smelled like fresh horse shit. And I mean that to all good extent when I say that, by the way. And then I got some slight flowers out of that. So when I nosed the foot, pungent white pepper, cedar, dry roasted nuts. And then the cold draw told some rich cedar. There was a saltiness that I felt on my lips. And then there was from that white pepper, there's that tingling aspect of it on my lips as well. What about you?
Yeah, first thing I thought of when I saw the cigar was, man, this is a long cigar. It's just 7.5 inches. That's big. So that was my kind of initial reaction to it. But similar to you, medium brown wrapper, a few easily visible and pretty thick veins, I thought. There was some blotchiness to the wrapper, and the veins were also carrying kind of a different color than the wrapper was. But the seams were smooth, but you could easily see them just because of the variations in color in the wrapper. So it's not it wasn't a bad thing. It was, it was still smooth and rolled well. Caps really neatly applied. Like you said, the band is pretty nondescript, like a deep shade of blue, white lettering and outlining on it. I would say the band doesn't do anything for the cigar, but it doesn't take anything away from the cigar, like the contrast between the band and the wrapper color. Aroma from the wrapper, I didn't get anything.
Really?
Very rare that I don't get really any aroma. It was pretty much non-existent. So, and I don't know. That's not bad. It's just there was just nothing there for me to smell.
I rolled a cigar in some horse shit before I smelled.
That's what it was. I don't know. From the foot was pretty sweet. Not quite raisin sweetness, but it was. I don't know that I can give a distinct descriptor on it, but it was sweet. Pre-lat draw. A little bit of some of that same sweetness, but it was more like a graham cracker sweetness. But there was also a little bit of leather mixed in there, and then I was getting a spicy tingle on my lips as well. So flavor-wise, kind of take us through your experience, first third through final third.
Sure. From after toasting the cigar and getting a couple of puffs in, it's just kind of get that charred, toastiness out of it. Mm-hmm. I got just lots of sweet, spicy and earthy notes. Specifically, got a lot of great burnt caramel to it, dried biscuits, leather, and a black pepper that kind of layered the palate originally. I had some good dry roasted cashews. There was this tea note that I got consistently throughout the cigar. And I mean, in my written review, I said black tea, but maybe just kind of like an herbal tea in general. To be more broad scoped. So roughly an inch in, there's hay that got introduced into all the aforementioned flavors. And it really mixed well. The hay really mixed well with the black pepper and that burnt caramel sweetness. So delicious. Smoking another an inch or so, that black pepper spiced. It was deeper and fuller. And at that point, that spice kind of caked my entire tongue. It's almost like an oily, like if you eat something that's like a really oily, spicy, like your tongue just feels like it got caked with all that oil. Right. Kind of like that sensation. On the retrohale, I got graham cracker, nasal clearing black pepper, a rich deep cedar. The finish consisted of dry and creamy biscuits, that black/herbal tea, and black pepper on the back palate. So first third in terms of strength and body, medium. So getting into the second third, it's initially it was a continuation of that sweet, spicy, earthy profile. And within the second third, I felt like those flavors kind of melded a little bit together as compared on the first third. Even though the flavors are really distinct and pretty full, in the second third, I felt like they kind of worked in more of a harmonious fashion. Mm-hmm. Continuous flavors, with the burnt caramel sweetness, dried biscuits, leather, hay, dry roasted cashews. And I got some coffee notes coming in and out in that herbal or that black tea. Mm-hmm. So kind of in the middle of the second third, that black pepper no longer caked my tongue. Instead, it moved on to the back palate. And about a quarter inch into this, on the second third, the strength went up for me to a medium full, and it slightly gave me that relaxing, cloudy head, like a buzz going on. On the retrohale, it's still the same nasal clearing black pepper, rich cedar, and toasted nuttiness. In the finish, toasted nuttiness, herbal tea, cedar, like an airy bread, perhaps like a light brioche, and a slight black pepper. the backdrop. So moving on to the last third. The last third, for me, the cigar just kind of lost momentum, and lost that complexity and the nuance. So at that point, in the last third, I got namely a toasted nuttiness, a sharp cedar, some leather, and some palate layering black pepper. The black pepper in general has died down, especially that burnt caramel that I really loved within the first and the second third. It's not as distinct, and it more kind of fell on the wayside. So on the retrohale, it still got that oomph of that black pepper, that's nasal clearing, and sharp cedar. The finish, toasted nuttiness, still that lingering black pepper. Yeah. So in general, last third was the letdown, and hopefully with some more humid time, it'll get like the first and second third. So what about you?
Yeah, for me initially, I got like a light, warm, and spicy cedar, but after a few draws, that spice kind of died down a little bit. I mean, the retrohale, I was getting like a toasted bread note, which was nice. 3/4 of an inch in, the cedar transitioned to oak, but it was still carrying a little bit of the spice. And then at an inch in, the retrohale moved from the like a toasted bread to like a toasted oak. The spice was really mellow at that point in the mouth, and the oak was still the primary flavor there. There was a little bit of cream that had mixed in as well. At an inch and a half, there was a drop in strength, and the flavors really smoothed out for me. And on the retrohale smoothed out at the same time. And the toasty oak was really just the only experience that I was getting in the mouth and the retrohale at that point. It was just kind of that same note in both areas. At the end of the third, some char came in to mix with the oak, and the toastiness kind of went away in the mouth, but it's kind of stayed there in the retrohale. And the strength for me was medium full at the beginning, but it kind of tapered down to medium at the midway point of the third, and then kind of went that way for the rest of that third. Second third, slightly charred oak continued, but there was a fair amount of cream that came in to mix with that. And then a 1/4 inch in, I was getting a slight nuttiness that was mixing in with all the other flavors that were there. The midway point, it was primarily oaky. There was a little bit of nuttiness still, but the cream had gone away. And then 2 inches in, the cream came back, and it helped kind of fill out the profile a little bit more than what I was just getting with the oak. Then a bit of minerality came into the retrohale. And then as the third was finishing, the profile got a real nice mix of oak and cream, and had that same mix on the retrohale with a little bit of minerality there as well. And the strength at that point was just slightly below medium for me. And then getting into the final third, oak was still primary flavor, but I was starting to get a little bit of mustiness in the mouth in the retrohale. And then an inch in, the mustiness had increased and taken over the lead from the oak. And then at the midway point, the oak that was in the background got a little bit of char to it to mix with the mustiness. Retrohale was primarily musty at that point, not really much other flavor there. And then further in, the oak and mustiness evened out, so they were equal players at that point. And there was a little bit of bitterness that was coming into the profile as well. But the bitterness went away after a few draws, and the cigar kind of finished out with that even mix of oak and mustiness. And the strength there was kind of right on medium at that point. So that was my experience in regards to the flavors.
Yes.
So let's get into performance then. So draw and burn, what was your experience like?
The burn, I felt like it was good for the most part. The burn was a little uneven at times, but with that said, the most important fact of that is the leaves all burn in unison without ever needing a touch-up or a relight in general. I had average of 1 inch ash marks, and the ash were, it became flowery here and there, but it never fell unwantingly.
Right.
So that's what's most important for me.
Yeah.
In terms of smoke production was a little thin, but it's still you can still get the aromas of the smoke. So, what about you?
Same experience with you on the burn. I mean, I had a perfect burn line, and same thing, 1 inch chunks for the ash. Never dropped off on me when I didn't want it. It was always something I knew it was kind of getting to that point, and I would kind of just real easy tap, and it would just drop off in the ashtray. So that was perfect. And in the Lancero, I think that's pretty good for having an inch length at that point. Draw was really good. There were a few moments where it tightened up on me a little bit more than I prefer, but those were here or there. But otherwise, it was pretty much spot on for me. So
sorry, draw was good.
Yeah. Okay.
As a matter of fact, draw was amazing. There was no issues.
Yeah.
There was absolutely no issues that I had, and kudos to this is Tapsa, right?
Yeah.
Kudos to Tapsa for rolling a difficult Vitola and having a perfect draw. So.
Yeah, so I think performance was really spot on for this cigar.
Yeah, for sure.
So overall experience, what do you think of this cigar?
So now that after I smoked it, I thought. By the way, I've smoked this. So I actually got 2 boxes of these, and I've smoked out of the same box, probably like 4 to 5 of them so far. And when I first got them, which was, I probably got them like maybe January or February or somewhere in that line. And when I first got it, there was a lot of edginess to this cigar. Like there was quite a bit of sharpness to it, like sharp spices, and there was certainly not as much pronounced sweetness as I had it in this example. So that's that, whatever that's worth. So also, now that I smoked it, my mind always thinks, well, how does this stack up to that Phantom?
Right.
And it's not as good as a Phantom, nor am I expecting it to be. I mean, I remember when the Phantom first came out, it was really good. Like it was memorable good. And in my opinion, this cigar is memorable good. Like it hits that Corojo 98 wrapper from Nika so well. Like, it's spicy, it's sweet, it's got good body, it's got really good flavors in general. And I love that depth of flavor. But I'm going to bank on this aging. And after aging, I think it's going to be something special. So I personally recommend for people to pick up a decent amount. Like, I don't know, do what I did. Buy 2 boxes. Buy 1 to smoke now because it's good to smoke now. And then, within that box, that's going to be the smoking box. Smoke it every 3-4 months and then gauge it. And I think it's going to get to that sweet point in a few years. And at that point, go nuts and smoke them all.
Yeah.
What about you?
The cigar was good, but it didn't wow me. And what you talked about earlier, bait being noted that it's supposed to be, I don't know at what level it's based off of the Phantom, but that there's some correlation between the Phantom and this cigar. I was like, all right, I'm in the same boat as you. I love the Phantom. And maybe I was just hoping for that experience again. But I also have to remember Phantom came out in 2010. So I've had opportunities to smoke it from then to now. So there's been points where I've had it with multiple years of age on it. So it's definitely a different cigar than what this is with only, 5-6 months of time on it. So keeping that in mind, I knew it had big shoes to fill, but it didn't live up to that experience. But I mean, I don't think it could be. I just didn't think it didn't have that opportunity anyway. But the core flavors of oak, cream, and the muskiness, that was what the cigar was presenting it for me now. There weren't really that many transitions or any wow moments. It was just kind of a good cigar that was burning through for those 7.5 inches. But I think this cigar is easily approachable for any type of smoker, new smoker, experienced smoker. The strength, the body, none of that's going to be overbearing for anybody. So anybody can try it. Like you said, get one, try one now. But there's the potential for this to do something special later on. So keep that in mind if you want to, go deep like you did, or if you want to at least get 5, 10 of them, and then, go through different variations of when you smoke it to see how it kind of ages. But now that I know how deep you went, I'm definitely gonna be hitting you up in a couple years to.
Yeah. No, I think dude, we should totally do a revisit on this guy.
Yeah.
I think this one's definitely worth doing something like that too.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Yeah.
So talking about scores, you gave this a 7.73. I gave this a 6.80. So how do you think the score worked out for your experience?
That score, I think it pretty much yields definitely top 5 of all the cigars we reviewed so far on developing palates.
Mm-hmm.
It probably hits number 2 or number 3, I assume, next to the Bushido and then perhaps the Silver Mesa.
Mm-hmm.
I'm totally good with that score. I basically went, first, second, last, third, very good average, burn good, draw amazing, and overall very good. And I think with some laydown time, I think it's going to hit some amazing scores and be quite a bit of like a euphoric kind of a cigar.
Right.
So I'm good with that.
Yeah, my score, I stand by the score, but I think it might be a little high for my experience. There were, in some of the thirds, the way I scored it was like I was smoking through the third, and I was like, okay, this is going to be, like second, third. This third is going to be average. But then like towards the end of the third, then I would get some flavors, or the experience would kind of ramp up, and I'm like, I was going to give an average, but now it's good because it's getting a little bit more to it. So like it was right on the edge for me in some of those points where I gave it the higher rating because of how the third finished. So it could have easily been knocked down a little bit if those didn't pop up for me. So a revisit to this cigar I think would be worth it later on down the road, just to see how it works. I think it will probably score higher if it does mature. Mm-hmm. But I stand by the score still. It's a good score. It just it might be a little bit lower if I smoked it again and I had a similar experience. I don't know. Any final thoughts on the cigar?
No, I think this one's a buy. I'm a bit of a Illusione fan in general. I love how Dion's does Corojo, 98, 99, Nika Corojo, especially when he gets his stuff from Aganorsa. I'm not so hot on his Criollo blends. It's a little too much of a dryness for me. But no, I recommend it to new cigar smokers, to veterans, even maybe to some of those Cuban cigar guys that that shit on non-Cubans all the time.
Right.
I don't like something like this, honestly. If you unban it, especially, and tell them that it's some cute custom roll, I think it'll really knock their heads off. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so we'll have to see. Come back to the cigar and see if it even increases from where it's at now. All right. Well, that wraps it up for us. If you're just catching this video on YouTube, be sure to go to the website developingpalates.com to check out the full written review. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Catch us on all the social media channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Jiunn.
Thanks.
And we will catch you on the next one.